Welcome, Earthlings. We broadcast at you from the planet Smashtron 9, the new location of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Coming at you first with the classic 304 angstroms wavelength here from SDO. That video is the last 24 hours. We've had a number of events happening, some sunspot growth, some coronal mass ejections. See some interesting prominentiary activity there around the limbs, both around the eastern limb, around the equator, and around the northwest. Also, likelihood of flares goes up because of some activity that we see happening there down in the southwest. Here is your SDO data from yesterday plus today. That's the SDO intensity gram. And here is the colorized magnetogram. All sunspots currently in the southern hemisphere. Take a moment to press like and subscribe. Visit our links. If you haven't done so, check out smashomash.com. We've got some new links there, and we're excited to announce a new partnership / sponsor of the channel in Hemp Lucid. If you use their products, why not use them through our link and help support the channel that way? There's the link right there on the homepage. And this is what you'll find, and we've got some product reviews coming up this weekend. We're excited about that. Going to be doing some product reviews on the Delta 8 Gummies watermelon flavor, as well as the CBD soft gel capsules. Exciting, exciting stuff. So shout out to Hemp Lucid. Thanks for allowing us the opportunity to refer your products and endorse them. You may also find the link to the merch shop on the homepage. Also below the video, you'll find the link to Hemp Lucid and to our merch shop down there, as well as links to smashomash.com. So we've got our products here in order of best selling. Today's featured product is, and we've got a new release, by the way, if you're looking for the Smasher Price My First Pandemic products. We re-released that. It's one of our earliest merch items. Today's featured product is Mansa. Stands for Make America Not Suck Again. Not a political slogan. I am apolitical, a pragmatist, with zero interest in political parties. They are not nearly nuanced enough to interest me in any way. So remember, folks, the first thing to do in order to get out of a hole is to stop digging. And part of that process for the planet, in order to Mensa, which is make Earth not suck again, is to Mansa, make America not suck again. Set an example. It's up to you to make America not suck again. And it's up to America to make Earth not suck again. So let's get on track. Think global, act local, and make America not suck again. If you want to support the channel via subscription services, check out smashomash.com/smashteam. Thanks to our gold and silver Smash Team members, you can find our links there as well at smashomash.com/smashteam. The best value is the gold annual paid-up subscription, and we do provide additional content to our gold and silver subscribers. There's also a bronze level if you refuse to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet to send us a few bucks per month. You'll also find links to SureMed, an association membership in the American Better Health Organization, a not-for-profit group focused on improving the health of its members. A SureMed-based membership will get you all kinds of things like doctors by phone, counselors by phone, virtual veterinarians, 15 to 50% discounts on dental services, vision, save on your prescription drugs with your SureMed card as well. Even the pharmacy might be surprised at how much you can save with a SureMed membership. And don't forget to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content on YouTube. If you're viewing on BitChute, go subscribe over on YouTube. You're missing a bunch of the content. We have 0 cosmology segments over there on BitChute. And we've been combining our space weather and meteorology segments into a single video. You can also find SmashOnMash.org presents the sun, terms defined, the diamond anvil too hard to smash, driving, riding, and pro tips, and lots more in our playlists, so check that out. More live streams coming soon to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And let's get to the volcano report. Seeing a volcano that I'm not familiar with on the list showing up once again here. That is Sangay, by the way, up there. That's the Ecuadorian volcano Sangay. Now continuing with some lava flows there. We'll get to it first. Shivaluch, volcanic ash not identifiable in satellite imagery. Don't assume it's not erupting and build a campsite at the base of the mountain. Fuego in Guatemala is exploding and producing a 16,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Sangay, 22,000-foot plume of volcanic ash there from Sangay. Please do not pole vault the caldera. Sulfur dioxide measurements made it to 690 tons as of yesterday. Revenador in the same nation, also exploding, flight level 160. Cotopaxi in Ecuador has dispersed its volcanic ash cloud. I didn't even know it was producing one until today. Sabancaya exploding, producing a 22,000-foot ash plume over Peru. It's a flight level 220. Let's check the global seismicity. There are the earthquakes of the past 90 days, at least the major ones. And it has been a while since we've seen a 7-magnitude quake. Keep in mind, folks, any earthquake can be a foreshock. And the largest quake of the past 24 was this quake right here, right at China, okay? South of Kangding. Now, if that would have been an American earthquake, it would have probably been like a magnitude 8, and it would have been the most amazing, the most beautiful, the most spectacular earthquake that you've ever seen in your life. But this earthquake was made in China, okay? China. Probably created with stolen U.S. intellectual capital. It was only a 5.3. It occurred at 5:17 this morning on October 22nd. Let's just scroll up the list here. Earthquake activity here, calm over the past 24 hours. I don't know what's going on with my scrolling. Let's try that again. There we go. So things pretty chill there. Some earthquakes at Alaska, I noticed. Also the west coast of the U.S., but not a lot of earthquakes, and definitely no big earthquakes for the past 24 hours. And getting back to space, here's some composite imagery. This is 193 plus 304 angstroms for the past 24 hours. Well-defined coronal hole rotating in here, and we're already getting a high-speed solar wind. Just showing up here, a shift in the magnetic fields and a likelihood of geomagnetic storms. So lots and lots to talk about despite relatively low levels of solar activity. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux now all the way down to 106 solar flux units. Oh my God, an inactive sun, it's going to kill you. Oh noes. Quick, purchase a bunker or maybe a campsite, depending on how idiotic you might be. There is the last year of 10.7 centimeter radial flux, it's the black line, and sunspot number, which is the red line, and perhaps you can see how indeed proportional the radial flux and the sunspot number are. And here's a space weather enthusiast dashboard. I'm sorry, we're up to 109 solar flux units. Oh no, I thought it was 106, which would mean, no, the sun's going to kill you. Pardon my sarcasm, the sun is not going to kill you. Next, people might kill you because of terrible decisions. The sun won't kill you. All right, so here you go. Here is the space weather enthusiast dashboard here, forecasting geomagnetic unrest coming later today. It could come at any moment, actually, because we do see an increase in the magnetic field strength. We see a strong shift into negative BZ territory, which we'll cover here in a moment. So the geospace is ramping up here. We could see geomagnetic storms or geomagnetic unrest for the next day or two, maybe even 3. But we've got a well-defined coronal hole there. This is the earthly geospace in magnetohydrodynamic pressure for the last 4 hours. If you want to find out how the data is modeled here, go to the Geospace Magnetosphere Movies page and click the Details tab. You'll find a link to the Space Weather Modeling Framework, and that'll show you the software. You can download it yourself. And if you think NASA is lying and hiding data, well, it's probably because you don't understand the data. But that's the last 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure surrounding planet Earth to about 12 Earth diameters. Here are Earth's magnetic moments from the ground. And you can see lots of aurorae likely there in the northern hemisphere especially. So we expect to see lots of auroral imagery today on Twitter. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/smashomash. Planetary K-index at 3. Don't be surprised to see this get to 4 or 5 in the next day or two. Just a little bit of additional shift in the magnetic field or a little uptick in the solar wind could send us right into geomagnetic unrest conditions. Current conditions are KP3. So looking at the real-time solar wind here, we do see a little uptick in the solar wind density. We're now at about 18 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed here, not elevated yet, only 353 kilometers per second. We can expect to see an elevated solar wind speed. We do see the phi angle gently shifting here as the magnetic fields increase. So we're going to see this solar wind density drop off and the speed come up anytime soon. It is coronal hole wind stream time. So also the magnetic fields have enhanced here. Keep in mind these measurements are made by the ACE and Discover out at Lagrangian point 1, about 1 million miles from Earth. Magnetic field now 11 nanotesla with a BZ of -10. That's the vertical component of the magnetic field. Here are the GOES magnetometers. These are measuring the magnetic fields at Earth in their geosynchronous orbits well inside the magnetosphere. That's the last 3 days, and you can expect some sawtooth readings on this coming up with the arrival of that coronal hole high-speed stream. Next, looking at the polarity of the heliospheric current sheet. Earth remains in a south pole current sheet, and it looks like there is a north pole current sheet coming soon. No real surprises there. Let's move on to the line of sight plot. Here the sun's B field is depicted in blue. Solar polar fields in red for south, green for north. And let's move to coronal holes. Coronal holes are a super important feature with the analysis of solar cycles. They weren't discovered until the 1970s when spacecraft started looking at the sun in very specific ultraviolet bands which are not visible from Earth's surface. They are filtered out by the mesosphere. And it turns out that the solar polar fields reverse every 11 years. That's known as a solar sunspot cycle, and they're doing it now. The coronal hole high-speed stream we currently see is coming from that south pole-oriented coronal hole shown in red in the south. We do have some well-defined northern coronal holes here. There are trans-equatorial ones coming in from the east. There you'll see those start to become apparent on the left side of your frame. That's SDO 211 angstroms for the past 24 hours, which makes it time to move to sunspots. So here's a sunspot scenario. Yeah, like we stated yesterday, there's a new sunspot over here named 3128. We're going to show you some high detail, full resolution imagery of the latest solar intensitygram and magnetogram. Likelihood of major flares goes way up with these sunspots setting. They've grown a little bit in the past 24 hours, so 3128 and 3125 could indeed produce an M flare, possibly even an X flare. Again, likelihood of large flares goes up as those sunspots reach the limb. So here's your SDO magnetogram for the past 24 hours. And here's the SDO intensitygram. A little bit of growth there. And once again, I would reiterate that large flares are more likely with sunspots setting on the limb. Now check this out. I think we've got some new groups here. So, yeah, this group down here, this doesn't have a name. There's actually like two groups there. There's one up to its north. So we need there's going to be a sunspot name there, we think, 3129 perhaps, to see if it stays there long enough to get a name. Let's move to flaring. First, the proton flux. No spikes in the proton flux. We did see a significant flare here. It was a C 6.4, nearly a C 6.5 at 5:40 this morning. So that did come from that group down there in the southwest. This is 131 plus 335 angstroms. Will also show 94. Both of these videos are for the past 24 hours from SDO. SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And thanks for leaving a comment, Robert, otherwise known as One Audio. We're glad you're enjoying the last 4 years of content. Next, we've got a star chart. And if you're up before dawn, you may see a crescent moon. You might even see it in the daytime. You'll also see Mars up there, right near the galactic plane, which is that blue line. And also Mercury rising there ahead of the sun over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Excuse me. Here is where things are located. And here comes your 1 week solar system forecast. That's where things will be in 7 days. We're only 9 days from Halloween. We will have a crescent waxing moon by the 29th of October. Next, some coronagraphs. Here's yesterday's imagery, and there are some CMEs there. Are any of them earthly directed? Well, we'll get to it. Also, Venus showing up, and a sun-diving comet, which you'll see on today's imagery, I think right at the tail end. Right down here, you'll see it just come into frame. Don't worry, we've got much better shots of that. First, the Stereo A coronagraph, and the Soho-Lascaux C3 located at Lagrange 1. So we paused this here at about 1 o'clock Universal Time this morning because there is some ejecta that looks like it could be earthly directed from Stereo A. See a faint ejection right here. Right in this location. So watch that area. You'll see some ejecta there. It is off to Earth's west. So we can find it over here on the Soho-Lascaux C3. You'll see it moving off to the right. As that comet comes in, that ejecta goes out. Doesn't look like there are any earthly directed CMEs at the moment. So we'll let those play through. Great imagery of this comet diving in here from the lower right. We've got some closer up images of that also coming in here, coming up next. So some CMEs happening. Likelihood of additional CMEs still remains very high. There are some huge filaments there you can see on the far side of the sun from Stereo A's perspective. And some CMEs happening just a couple of hours before we did this stream. So here's the last 24 hours. SDO 304 angstroms plus Soho-Lascaux C2 and C3. And here's the zoom out, which is just splentacular. Great imagery there of Venus and that comet, which looks like it is on a suicide mission. Continuing on to our ground-based solar observatory at El Teide, Spain. Still significant filaments down here in the southwest and in the southeast. Some filaments also rising up here in the northeast, but we see a lot less filaments than we saw a week ago. Although likelihood of coronal mass ejections is still very high, just less high in terms of the likelihood of being earthly directed. Here's a GO 16 SUVI over the past about 2 hours, 3 hours. Another prominence happening up here in the northeast. And let's switch to the SDO 24-hour video in composite there. That's 304 plus 193 angstroms. Some filamentary reorganization happening over here. Looks like it's all splashing back down toward the chromosphere. And let's move into the bonus features segment. Thanks for leaving a comment, Mike. We do have some charging hazards happening here over places like the Caribbean, northern South America, and Mexico. They are all surface charging hazards caused by low-energy electrons building up on the outside of those geosynchronous satellites. Here's the GOES electron flux over the past 3 days. The GOES satellites measure the electron flux at the F ionosphere layer, which we will also show here momentarily. First, the NOAA forecast for relativistic electrons there showing up fairly accurate. Expecting a dip, I would tend to agree. In fact, this next one is going to be somewhere like down here, because we do have a coronal whole high-speed stream arriving, and it looks like there are some pretty strong magnetic fields there. Next, the relativistic electrons over the past year depicted here to give you some context on the greater than 2 mega electron volt electron fluence. And here comes the F ionosphere layer. This is one slice of the atmosphere, right around here, 300 kilometers of altitude. It's the F layer, courtesy Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. That is the vibrational frequency, millions of vibrations per second. That is megahertz. And if you're not familiar with looking at that, don't worry, we'll show you the anomaly from the 30-day median, depicted here. You can see a bunch of low-frequency anomalies there, all around the equator. Some rapid swings around the African Rift Zone located right about here. And of course, the weirdest part of the planet is right here, the South Atlantic anomaly now over the South American continent. That is where you'll always see the wildest swings. Here's the latest image, 10:30 Universal Time, ionogram, 10:30 Universal Time, anomalygram. Again, showing anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Continuing on to the total electron content forecast, showing you the most likely place for GPS errors. We indeed see some significant GPS anomalies over North America. Don't be surprised to see those continue, as we see electrons get the most out of place during coronal whole high-speed streams. And we're about to see one showing up, spreading all the way to the poles there, so some significant GPS errors likely in the northern hemisphere. It's showing you the electron count from the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt down to your GPS handset, a distance of about 12,500 miles of altitude. Here's your latest intensitygram as promised, and your latest solar magnetogram. Do we see a new sunspot over here? Not so much. There's a new sunspot group. That's 2 Umbrae there. That's a beta gamma class sunspot. And yeah, so there's a group up here that's going to get a name probably, maybe even 2 different groups. So we may have as many as 3 different new named sunspot groups coming. They're all pretty small so far. At least 2 of those are beta gamma class. Let's bring up some more imagery here from SDO. That is 335, 193 plus 94 angstroms from yesterday plus today. As it is time to move to the realm of your Earthling meteorology segment. Mankind is very concerned with their weather, so we provide weather on planet Earth for the sake of mankind. hoping people start to understand atmospheric physics on Twitter. Many don't. Many still think that contrails are some sort of intentionally sprayed thing, and because they don't understand how rain works, they think, oh, contrails are causing rain. Contrails under cirrus clouds are not causing rain. And here is the lovely sunrise over the Atlantic Ocean from the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite. That's the visible satellite. And here are ocean currents. So starting out nullschool.net, looking at some of the world's fastest currents located here north of Papua New Guinea. Nearly 5 mile per hour currents up there. And if you want to see what the rest of Earth's currents look like, head to nullschool.net. Check it out yourself. What we're looking at here is ocean currents and currents. You can also have currents and, for example, sea surface temperature anomaly if you like. And I don't know if we're allowed to show this, but large portions of the Pacific Ocean look cold, which, I'm not sure. Will that get us banned from social media? Not sure yet. Oh my God, look, it's 5.6 degrees below normal here. Oh, noes. Please don't ban us for citing these facts. Okay, look. The Pacific Ocean is burning up. What can you do about it? The Pacific Ocean is 7.3 degrees hotter than normal here in the northern portion, which means you're all going to die. Horrible deaths. Moving on. Here are the surface winds of the eastern world. Strong high-pressure system here, continuing over New Zealand. It looks like clear skies over the island nation. Here are the jet streams of the eastern world. Clear skies likely over southwestern Australia. Here are the jet streams of the western world, the Americas. Still some cold air being injected deep into the southern U.S., like into Florida, for example. Looks like some cold temperatures there for Florida. Here are the surface winds of the western world. What do we have here? Some pretty strong winds here off the Mexican coast. Yowzers. Those are hurricane-force winds. Licking the coastline of Mexico. Surface winds of the central world are looking like this. And like sands through the hourglass of time, these are the jet streams of your lives. Here's your weather.gov map. And if your county's lit, click your county on weather.gov. Lots of winter storm type scenarios here happening for the Rockies, especially the northern Rockies. Some winter storm warnings there showing up in pink. Again, if your county is lit, click your county at weather.gov. We can't go over all those counties. There are lots of counties in the U.S. So we're going to bring up a weather forecast here. This is the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. As there is some snow coming, and some very heavy snow there expected. Some heavy wet snow, especially in places like Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado. Go away. There we go. So the snow will be kind of spreading to the east then. And then that low is going to move back up north into Canada. 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation forecast there. And we're also going to show snow depth for the same period. 72 hours based on the GFS model. And over 15 inches of snow there forecasted for portions of Montana. The entire state almost about to be covered. Also, North Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, some snow coming to Texas, Nevada, California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and South Dakota. Significant snow there showing up. 72-hour GFS, total accumulated snow depth, accumulated positive snow depth change in inches. Last but not least, we'll show the total accumulated precipitation forecast, since there will be a lot of rain coming as well, especially to the Pacific Northwest. So some heavy wet snow and some heavy rain also. That is what happens when you reach 100% relative humidity, otherwise known as the dew point. That is when you have enough moisture that it no longer can remain as water vapor and must become precipitation in the form of fog, sleet, rain, or snow. 72-hour GFS, total accumulated precipitation forecast. Continuing on to our windy.com map. Very, very strong low pressure system. A huge, long, strong low pressure system there over northern Canada. And let's continue on here. We don't want the video to be too lengthy. Here is the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite. The NASA GOES Lightning Mapper. And it's looking like it's pretty crappily animated, so let's move to the real-time lightning map from blitzertung.org. No terrestrial lightning strikes in the U.S., but we've got some in the Atlantic and the Caribbean. Moving on to the U.S. Doppler radar. We've already got some significant precipitation happening there in the northwestern portion of the country. We'll focus on the lower 48 for the remainder of the video. There are the ground-based Doppler radar systems. Here is the space-based 3.9 nanometer radiation satellite showing clouds and fog, even though it's too dark to use the visible satellite. And here is the water vapor map. And those systems are going to stagnate there because there's nothing to move them to the east. They're going to be hanging out on the leeward side of the Rockies especially. See that moisture just kind of hanging around there. And that plus cold air equals what we call snow. So there is your U.S. Doppler radar map. FYI, NASA's not hiding snow. Here is your shortwave radiation map showing clouds and fog. And there is the water vapor map in case your Doppler is not showing you a clear image of what's going on. Use the water vapor satellite. It'll clear things up, especially if you understand that this dry air, this dry cold air up here is more massive than the warmer, moister air around it. It is a relative high pressure, creating a massive pressure gradient, and that is where we'll close things out. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, and may that solar wind be at your back.